So we've that taken care of. Oh, okay. Rajvinder needs a few minutes. That's okay. Sharon O'Donoghue, how are you, Sharon? Good evening to you. Oh, there's Isabel. Hi, Isabel. How you doing? Good to see you. Welcome along. Oh, John Shields. Hiya, John. Good man. Good to see you up there in Dundalk. And there's Val. Hiya, Val. Good to see you as well. Chandrika in London. Hi, Chandrika. Good few people from London. Lots of people from the UK. I got looks like we'll have a shipment in from India on Monday by the looks of things. So there's a lot of stuff we're out of stock of, but it looks like we'll have it all in by Monday. I have another shipment coming out of India, but I'm not sure when that'll get here because I don't know if you're watching the news, but there's a big tanker blocking the Suez Canal. So that's going to create a disaster for anything coming from Asia. So by sea anyway, so they have to go all the way around Africa, I suppose, but unless they can free it up, but they don't seem to have had much luck freeing it up so far, but I'm sure they'll get around to it. But anyway, we've one shipment that's in. It was delayed in Rotterdam, but it's here, so we should have a lot of stock. We should have a lot of stock next week, and we normally do a voucher for people who do the course. Actually, I haven't even done I have done a voucher for the previous course, but I haven't pushed it because there's so much stuff was out of stock. But we'll do a voucher for this course as well. But I'll just wait until everything's in because there's no point in putting everything on back order, you know. So we'll just wait until it's all in, and then. But that should be Monday. They've told me it's arrived in Dublin. So once it clears through customs, then I should be able to go and pick it up, you know. And then everybody on the detox, I hope you've all got your detox packs. I'm presuming at this stage that you have, and that you've joined the WhatsApp group as well, because that's starting on Sunday. And we're going to do another detox webinar for the April one, even though we've a lot of people booked in for April already. Must have over 60 people booked in for that, but we can probably take about 100. So we'll do another webinar on that as well, you know. Dami, how are you? Dami Bharat. Okay, I'll just have another sup of tea while we're waiting. Okay, so you mentioned water last time. I use a Brita filter jug, but as far as I know, it doesn't remove chlorine or fluoride. I think they do remove chlorine and fluoride from the water. You just check on the label, but it definitely. I use the same thing, you know, and it definitely takes the taste off the water. There's a terrible taste off the tap water here, and when you put it through the filter. I mean, it'd be way better if we didn't have to filter our water at all, because like water contains like lots of minerals, and if it's coming through from the ground and everything like that, it's very rich in different minerals and things like that. But unfortunately, it's so full of pollutants as well that it's probably better off to filter it. But yeah, just check the label. Just check, it'll tell you what it filters, you know. But as far as I know, it does do chlorine and fluoride, you know. No, do you get amla powder from India? I'd have to check the bag. I'm pretty sure that comes from India. Yeah, some of them come from different parts of Asia, but I'm pretty sure the amla powder comes from India. It would be something that would grow in India anyway. So no, I haven't been able to find cold pressed organic unrefined sesame oil for the detox. Do you have any? That's all we sell is unrefined. We have lots of sesame oil in stock. I'm very surprised you haven't managed to find it in a health food shop though. Well, that's from Karen down in Tipperary. Yeah. Well, yeah, if you stick in an order tomorrow, Karen, I'll try get it out in the post to you, and you should have it by, well, you won't have it by Saturday, but you might have it by Monday. But yeah, we have a good quality sesame oil on our website. Just if you're looking for anything on our website, don't go looking for it. There's hundreds of products there. You'll find it very difficult to find it under the categories. Just put it in the search box. So just put sesame or oil or anything like that, and then everything on the homepage, and then it just should pop up there. That's sunflower oil. No, we don't have sunflower oil. We don't have sunflower oil. Sharon O'Donoghue, detox pack hasn't come. Okay. Okay. That's strange, Sharon. Let me just check something. Oh no, I can't check it because I'm recording. I can't. I'll check while the video's playing. I'm surprised that hasn't arrived at you. But anyway, okay, I'm surprised that hasn't arrived at you. Karen, try health food store, says Rajvinder. So Rajvinder's back on. So let's see, is she ready to say hello to us? Hi, Raj.
Hi, Noel.
Hey, how
I
you
won't be
doing?
able to use my video because I'm on the phone, but
Okay.
I might get nosy. I might stay on mute for a while then.
Okay, you're on your phone, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went outside for a walk, so I'm just out.
Okay.
I'll just reply to the messages by typing. Okay, is that okay?
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Then I'll join later when the questions. Yeah.
So let's see. Sunflower oil we don't sell, but you should get sunflower oil. That's very common. But cold pressed organic, yeah, that might be a little bit more difficult. But try a health food shop. You know. Do we sell copper flasks? No, we don't. We used to sell copper cups, but we didn't have that much demand for them. Again, you'll get it on the likes of Amazon, or there are lots of shops in India that sell them, so you can probably order it online. But I'd imagine you'd get it on Amazon if you wanted to. A reverse osmosis. You better talk to Dr. Brennan about that, Sharon. He's more into that than I would be, you know. Can you go through how to do ear massage oil for tinnitus, please? Yeah, you need to talk to a doctor really about that. But like you mix MA634 with sesame oil, or you can actually mix it with MP16 as well. And then you just get a dropper and just put a few drops in your ear. And then, but just a very, very, very small amount of MA634 because it's very strong. You could even leave it out and just use the MP16 oil in there as well. As you know, that's the same oil you use putting up your nose. You just put a few drops in your ear and just push it down. It's fairly straightforward. Let's see, is Dr. Brennan on? He is. Don, I think, might know a bit more about the water filters. Hi, Don.
Hi, Noel.
How you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Your expertise on water filters?
We've two. One filter is doing everything else, and one is doing chlorine.
Okay.
So to extract the chlorine, we have to put in a second filter under the sink.
And they're built in, Don, are they?
The one we actually have, the ceramic filter, is I think it's a Dalton, might be the name of it. Just off the top of my head.
Okay, but they're built in, are they? They're actually built into the taps.
Oh, they're built in. They're plumbed in under the sink.
Okay.
And then with the ceramic filter, you'd have to replace that. After a while, it sort of gets bunged and the water ceases to flow. So maybe it lasts 6 or 8 months. It costs about €45 to replace. And the other one, I think, has to be replaced once a year.
Yeah.
So you have a device under the sink that you can unscrew and remove the cylinder that is the actual filter and replace that.
Okay.
So there's ongoing costs, but then of course, you know, there'd be ongoing costs if you were buying.
The other filters are quite expensive. Yeah, the Brita ones, like they're quite expensive. Like, and my problem is I forget to replace them, and then I forget how long they're in there. They're only supposed to be there for a month, but it could be in the jug for about not 6 months, but a few months, you know. But then I noticed the taste going off the water, you know. So I just it's quite a big job to plumb them in and everything like that. Like that's a big investment. But I find the one I use I find it very good now, you know. But possibly not quite as good as the ones that you have. I suppose it depends on how much you want to spend.
Traditionally, I mean, there would have been different qualities of spring water and of rainwater, and you know, the water that people would have been drinking, but we can't drink these things anymore because of air pollution affecting the rain and because of water.
Yeah, actually, there's a program on RTE there where they were going around the different holy wells that were meant to be for different things, and then they were actually looking at the quality of the water in the wells, and they noticed that some of the wells did have minerals in them that were good for eyesight, let's say, or minerals that were good for arthritis or something. So there was like a scientific basis to why the well was specifically for those things. But as you say, that's Creedon's Ireland. It's on RTE at the moment. It's very, very interesting program about place names and places. But they did a thing on holy, you know, they did a section on holy wells and how there were cures for different things. But the water mineral composition was different from well to well. But as you say, I mean, I think pesticide runoff from farms would be just a huge problem, really, you know, because everything's sprayed to death these days, you know, so you don't want to be drinking that stuff, unfortunately.
Well, Jay is asking, he's changed, well done, Jay. He changed his main meal to the middle of the day and then fell asleep after it. And there's a possibility, Jay, you could be eating more than your body needs. And if you put too much coal on the fire, you'll put the fire out. Another possibility is that it's just the kapha phase of digestion, because after a meal, there's a phase when kapha for about an hour predominates. And at that point, you're a little bit more slowed down. And then pitta phase comes in at that stage for 2 hours. And that sort of gives you back a burst of energy. And then vata phase comes in the 4th hour. So there's these phases of digestion. You just might be noticing that. Or you might be a little bit tired and feeling sleepy because you didn't get enough sleep last night.
Yeah, people can feel sluggish after a meal, but as you said, the first phase after you eat a meal is kapha, and kapha is always going to be a little bit heavy, you know. That's why we recommend that after you eat a meal, you walk for 100 steps. So first of all, when you finish the meal, you just sit for a few minutes, just to let the system settle. And you don't overeat. Your stomach shouldn't be bloated. Like, you shouldn't feel completely full. You know, you're satisfied, but not completely full. And then you go for a walk with some fresh air, and that helps to balance out the kapha. There's lots of answers to things there for people looking for things. So there's lots of people answering in, you know, about copper flasks and stuff like that. So
Yanni asks about fungal nail infections, and you're right, Yanni, it is quite common. It indirectly, everything will have to do with digestion, really, because, you know, if you take digestion to be the process of transformation of food into you, because Ayurveda has an extended version of digestion. There's the digestive fire in the gut, and there's the digestive fires in the liver and tissues. But the product of good digestion is ojas, which is immunity and strength. And if you have your strength and immunity, no parasite can invade. But if, on the other hand, the byproducts of digestion, the AMA or toxins, then that'll interfere with immunity, and that gives an environment where these parasites like fungi can take root. I think the best possibility with the fungal nail infections is to use the healthy hair and nails tablets for 3-4 months, because it's going to take that length. The nail starts to grow out healthier.
is there something else you can put on it, Don? Neem oil, does that do anything for?
It's worth trying the neem oil, yeah. But even the regular sesame oil massage would be great as a preventative, because even sesame oil itself is antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral.
Okay. So that fungal infection will make the nail real thick and real bulbous and everything like that. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people are more annoyed by the look of it. Though for elders, it can be very difficult to start cutting the nails. They have to see chiropodists then.
Like Father Jack, when he got his nails cut, and Father Ted that time.
I didn't see that one. What happened
Niall
next?
was cutting his nails, and they all had to put on face masks and everything like that, because the toenails were flying everywhere, breaking glasses and everything. So, yeah. Sinead says, I've been on a vegetarian diet for Lent and have a very bad digestion. So that's interesting, Sinead. I'm wondering, are you eating a lot of raw foods, or were they cooked foods, or maybe some of the things you were cooking didn't really suit you, you know? I mean, if you're not used to being vegetarian, then you have to be careful. You have to have a good, nice balance of things. And I'm wondering, were you using dal or light dal, or maybe you were taking things like kidney beans or certain beans that can be very, very difficult to digest. You know, you really need to soak some of them overnight and make sure otherwise they can give you a terrible wind and terrible indigestion. So yeah, probably you need to be a bit more specific about actually what you mean by very bad digestion. And did you have it before, or was it just when you went vegetarian? And then it would depend on what you're eating. But you say you're pitta, so pittas tend to have a very strong digestion. So it sounds like maybe you were taking something that didn't suit you.
Yeah, and I think it's the gentle transition towards vegetarianism that's a lot easier to handle. And as Noel says, particularly the pulses can give wind, and the soaking overnight, and even the boiling of the pulse, and then they throw out the water you just brought to the boil and throw fresh boiled water from the kettle, and that can help, along with the spices like Avata Churna, or at least a fennel is a good one. So if it's wind related problems, which is often what happens, then, and Badra says, the audiologist says not to put oil in your ear if you've no wax, as it can get accumulated. Probably it depends on the oil, because I mean, almond oil and olive oil have traditionally been used, but it's an interesting one. If we were using oil in the ear, we would be doing it because of Vata, because the hearing is a Vata sense, and the herbalized oil used could be used for other purposes than just the wax.
So lots of shops coming in London there where you can buy different things.
And Sinead wants to know, do you sell tongue scrapers, Noel?
Yeah, we've stainless steel and silver plated tongue scrapers in stock. Yeah, but you get them in a lot of places, but we've Maharishi Ayurveda ones, stainless steel and silver plated. Just put tongue scraper in the search bar of the website and you'll find it.
If a friend has gulp, you can get it for 300. What's gulp, Noel?
Don't know.
Sounds like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sounds like it'll give you indigestion anyway, whatever it is. Someone there. I'm sorry. God, the chats move so quickly.
Yeah. How to use neem oil? Well, in the case of the nails we were talking about, we would just like paint the neem oil on the nail, if that's what you mean. I tried meditating after lunch, worked much better than the evening. Depends, Sarah. I don't know what meditation you're doing. If it was the TM, I'd say don't do it immediately after a heavy meal, because it's increasing alertness with the TM, and after a meal, it can be increasing snooze. I'm very sleepy during the day for the past couple of weeks. We'll try and get more sleep at night, Poppy.
There, and you can listen to Jean further down. Got up these last 2 mornings at 6 a.m. and can't believe how much energy I have. Thank you. Yeah, no, everybody should be up at 6 a.m. in the morning. Everybody should be up at 6 a.m. But you want to be up at 6 a.m., you got to be asleep by 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. And then you'll just wake up. And 6 a.m. now, because it's well, not quite bright, but it's very close to bright at 6 a.m. in the morning now. And it's just a lovely time of the day. It's just a lovely, lovely time of the day to go out for a walk, you know.
Kat says, after lunch, rest a while, after dinner, walk a mile. And that's an interesting one, because a cafe in the evening, up to 8 o'clock, it would be a nice concept to go have an evening walk, but not doing exercise too near bed, because that sometimes wakes you up a bit too much and doesn't settle you for sleep as well.
Water left overnight in a copper cup is so cold and doesn't feel good drinking. God, no, I leave it in your windowsill. And I don't, it's not any colder than any other water, I don't think, you know, but certainly leaving water in a copper cup is drinking from water from a copper cup is meant to be beneficial, but leave it on a windowsill, you know, so that the light can get in at it.
There's a message to me which sounds interesting. Someone who has higher nature citricidal. It's a grapefruit seed extract. It's an oil. You just put a single drop on your nail once a day. And that was, in their experience, good.
Is a tongue brush acceptable? I'm not sure what a tongue brush is.
Take a note of that.
Okay, I think we better get started. Let's see, we're talking about digestion this evening. We've 247 on. Oh yeah, we definitely should get started, yeah. So I'll share the screen here and we'll get going. So this is lesson 6. Let's see what we have. Oh, there we are there. Okay. All right. So we'll get going with lesson 6. Here for our 6th lesson in our Ayurveda course, and our last lesson, I mean, we've covered Vata, Pitta, Kapha very much in depth, and then we've covered the rhythms of nature and the different cycles when Vata, Pitta, Kapha are lively, and we know now how an imbalance in these doshas can cause all sorts of problems, and when these doshas are imbalanced, there's health and happiness. So today we're looking at the really, really important topic of digestion. So digestion is essential for human health. We have to have strong, healthy digestion. We have to be able to take the food that we bring in and digest it so that we make good organs and materials within the physiology. So strong digestion is essential for health, and weak digestion can cause all sorts of problems. So again, today we have our 3 doctors along with us, and they're all going to be giving their own perspective on digestion. And we're going to start off with Dr. Brennan. And so Dr. Brennan, can you give us your perspective on the main digestive systems within the physiology?
Sure, Noel. I'd like to start with what Ayurveda would consider Agni, and what we, from our own perspective, would consider the digestive system as we know it. And if we just start at the mouth and we recognize the digestive system is really one big long tube that ends up at the anus, with, in the meantime, connections from very important digestive organs like the liver and the pancreas, then we take in food into our mouth, and there are both salivary and mucus glands in the mouth that moisten, and then we chew and break down the food, and this will make it much more easily digestible. The salivary gland gives us enzymes that start already to break down and digest carbohydrates, and now the tongue projects this bolus or ball of food into the back of the throat, and sphincter opens at the top of the gullet. A wave of contraction of muscle in the gullet pushes the food down. Sphincter opens at the bottom of the gullet. This food is in the stomach. Now, the stomach is an organ which will hold the food while continuing the process of digestion. In the Ayurvedic context, there is a kapha which we've already mentioned, a bodhika kapha in the mouth, and this refers to those salivary mucus glands which start the process of digestion. And there's a prana, which actually is the impulse of swallowing. And then there is in the stomach now a kledika kapha, and this would refer to the mucus. And this also, the stomach is considered the prime organ for kaphas to be nourished in through the body, which is very interesting, because we know in the stomach that the digestion now starts working on the sugars which are absorbed from the stomach, as well as liquid absorbed from the stomach and nothing else. So these would actually be, very kapha nourishment to the body. And so in the stomach there is acid, and also the kledika kapha in the stomach moistens and protects the lining of the stomach from the acid. The pH falls to about 3, which starts the processes of digestion of protein. And when the stomach is also churning the food and mixing, and the process of digestion break it down, and then it gets to the fundus, the bottom of the stomach, where a sphincter can open. It goes into the duodenum. We're now into the small intestine. Now, the lower intestine and the lower stomach and the small intestine in Ayurvedic context is called Agni, and here's where the vast majority of the digestion is going to happen. In the first portion of the small intestine is a tube about 22 feet long, and is about 1 inch diameter. And the surface area is incredibly about 5,400 square yards inside this tube, because of a lot of folds, but because of almost innumerable microvilli, little finger-like projections, so tiny, but it gives a vast absorption area for the nourishment. In the duodenum, fluid comes in from the liver containing bile and bile salts, which start the process of breaking down the fats. And from the pancreas comes the enzymes that will digest proteins, fats. And now all these are being broken down into smaller molecules, which then get absorbed. And then in the these microvilli, which are helping this absorption, are connected to veins, mesenteric veins that bring all the nutrients absorbed to the liver, where they're going to be processed further. And that's also very interesting because Ayurveda talks about 5 fundamental fires in the liver, which transform what have been absorbed down to the very finest level of the 5 elements. But so there's a transformation that goes on in the liver, and then it will be transformed into Rasa, which will bring you to the next talk in a few minutes from Dr. Nahid, and she will be talking about how then from that Rasa all the tissues in the body are nourished, and how from that nourishment comes our health or our disease, depending on how good these fires are. But the Jata Agni, very important because it has a very powerful influence to enliven the liver and the tissues. When the food has reached the end of the small intestine, it opens into the large intestine, about 3 inches wide, about 5 feet of it, down to the anus. Here is incredible what happens in terms of a microbiome which now from a medical point of view, we can begin to understand the connections with the gut and the nervous system and the immune system, because the microbiome creates short-chain fatty acids, which and also about 30 different neurotransmitters, including serotonin, 90% of our happy hormone, and 50% of our dopamine, which is our motivating hormone. They are created by the microbiome in the large gut. And so Ayurveda always said the digestion was the seat of health or disease in the body. If it's healthy, we create ojas and we create a great vitality and strength in tissues, in our immunity. But if it's disturbed by in any way, we get ama or toxins that create disease. And so it's fascinating that there's about 500 million nerves in the digestive system, more than is in your spine. And 90% of those feed information back up through the vagus nerve to the brain. So really the gut is incredible. It's a nervous organ, it's a hormonal system, it's creating the neurotransmitters, it protects the body from intrusion when it's healthy, especially the microbiome will protect the body from absorbing toxins. But if our digestive system gets disturbed in any way, then we can understand how Ayurveda will put so much emphasis on it for health and so much importance on healing it when it's diseased. In the colon, well, in the intestines, there's samana vata, which is what's allowing us to absorb. And in the colon, this is the seat of apana vata, which will eliminate eventually what we have not used in our feces. And that will be a lot of dead bacteria plus fiber that wasn't used, plus any residues. And so that is the digestive system from the modern perspective, with the insights coming in from Ayurveda being so true and so confirmed by modern medicine's perspective. The intestines, the seat of nourishing pitta in the body, the colon is then the seat of nourishing vata in the body. And as we say, all those nutrients transformed into rasa, and rasa being handing over to Dr. Nahid to take us from there in our trip to good health.
Okay, Don, so that's fascinating. So what you're saying there about serotonin is very interesting, because I suppose most people think of serotonin and they think of the brain, but you're actually saying that it's actually manufactured, it's actually created down in the gut. So that's, I can see why.
It's fascinating, Noel. I mean, up to now, why would digestive devices heal rheumatoid arthritis? How could that be? Well, we know that now the microbiome in the gut produces these short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyric acid. We know that actually modulates the immune system. It tones it down when it's got overactive and starting to attack our own tissues, as well as it knocks out the inflammatory molecules of the immune system. So it brings a great deal of control over that situation. So
Okay, so it's no wonder Ayurveda places such huge emphasis on what we eat and how we eat and having a really strong digestion. And it's got so many tips, which Dr. Rajvinder is going to give us later on, about how to maintain that strong digestion. So really having that process from where you take the food into your mouth, the quality of the food you're taking in, and then right all the way through until you eliminate, but having that whole system working in a very healthy way and functioning correctly, and all the different Vata, Pitta and Kapha digestive things there that are there in that process, it must be, you know, really essential to have all that working as well as possible to prevent disease.
And or you can see also how you can target, say, the Jata Agni in the stomach intestine, if that needs specific, or the Samana Vata if the absorption is not good, or the Apana Vata for elimination. So the Ayurveda is actually understanding functional features that can be addressed in terms of restoring balance and health.
That's fantastic. Again, Ayurveda pinpointing not just the symptoms of, you know, maybe someone's having, you know, acidic reflux, or they're having an ulcer or whatever, but not just looking at the symptoms, but looking at, well, okay, there's something wrong with the digestive process, there's something wrong in here. And then you can actually pinpoint it down to one of these major elements and then go about working through herbs and through lifestyle to remedy that. It's, yeah.
Yes.
Just the brilliance of Ayurveda. So you mentioned Rasa there, Dr. Brennan, and I know Rasa is the first of the tissues within the body, first of the 7 dhatus. So that's what we're going to talk to now with Dr. Naheed. Dr. Naheed is joining us from India, and she's going to explain to us the process in which, you know, once the food gets digested, what actually happens to the different components through the different levels of tissue that we form. So hi, Dr. Naheed, welcome along. Can you hear us?
Thank you, Noel. Yes, I can.
Great. So you go ahead. You're going to talk about the 7 dhatus for us today.
Hello.
We can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, thank you, Noel. So thank you, Dr. Brennan, for elaborating the whole digestive system, how we form the first dhatu, first tissue, rasa, out of the digestion. And now I'm going to explain that if our digestion works properly, if our Agni is fine, and then we make, 7 respective tissues, and each one of them interlinked with the previous one. So what happens that when we form rasa properly, so what's the function of rasa dhatu, which can be correlated with our system, like body fluids, like plasma, like lymph. So they do nourishment. So their main purpose is to do nourishment to the entire body. And how we can assess that if someone is making the proper amount of rasa dhatu in their body, is we can see that they are having a good skin and hair, and they look, their skins are very soft, they are very enthusiastic, they are like, very energetic. But when they don't make that rasa tissue properly, then they can be restless. They will not be able to tolerate, loud music, loud sounds. They can be having symptoms like palpitation, and they can like feel exertion with little hard work. So almost the symptoms like a dehydration, because rasa ultimately represents the body fluid. So if you don't have enough body fluid, you are going to show the symptoms of dehydration. Then the next one, which forms from rasa dhatu, that is rakta, which is blood. So what happens that rasa goes into the liver, and there with the help of ranjak pitta and agni, they get transformed into blood. What they do is, the main function of blood in our body is to keep us alive, to keep us enlivened. So when we make a good rakta blood tissue, then people will be, having very bright red and coppery tongue, eyes, palm and sole. So, that's one of the clinical features when someone is suffering with anemia and doctor check their, conjunctiva, their nails. So these are the signs that you're not making enough rakta tissue. So if someone doesn't making enough Rakta tissue, then they can have a very rough, very cracky and dull, dry skin. Then forms the third tissue, which is muscle tissue, mamsa, which is also called mangsha. So their main function is to support our bones, to support our body, to to give us a form and a shape. Those who have a good amount of mangsha and the muscle tissue, they can be seen that they are very muscular, they're strong, and their joints are well covered with the muscles. When someone is not making enough of the muscle tissues, then they can be like very emaciated, especially they don't have any muscles in their neck, in their hip region, and in their belly. Then comes the fourth one, which is the meda. So meda can be correlated with adipose tissues, which ultimately saves our energy in the form of fat inside the body. So those who have excellence of meda tissue, you can be seen that they have very pleasing voice. When they speak, you just feel like to listen to them, which I actually don't have. They are very large built, and they are like very unable to tolerate exertion because they have a lot of fat in their body. And when we don't make fat tissue, adipose tissue properly, then it will be very interesting to know that we start having crackling sound in our joints. So you must be like, sometimes when you're sitting with your legs folded and when you're just making it straight and you hear a pop kind of sound, that can be an important symptoms when you're not making enough meda tissue, fat tissues. And people can be tired. You can feel that your eyes are very tired, like even if you're working for half an hour to 1 hour in your computer or laptop, your eyes seems to be feel very tired very easily. And of course those who don't have fat tissues appropriately, so they will be very lean and thin kind of person. Then comes the fifth one, which is the bone tissue, which is also called asthi. So what they do is, the main function is to hold our body, to keep us stabilized. So those who have excellence of bone tissue, they can have a broader shoulder, they will be having big head, and they have really strong teeth as well, like very firm jaws as well. And when we don't make enough of our bone tissue, then there can be problems like hair fall, there can be brittle nails, there can be very scanty body hair as well, and there will be very loose kind of joints. Their joints are not stable, more easily prone to break down, get fractured. And comes the sixth one, which is majja, which the main function of that is to fill. So what they do, the majjas can be correlated with our nerves, with our bone marrow. So they fill our bones, of course, and they also do all the nervous activity inside the body. Those who have excellence of majja, the bone marrow tissue, they also have a very pleasant, very very deep kind of voice, and they looks like very very attractive. They are very lustrous, but they have a very good strength, so they can be go on WWE and can fight wrestling matches very easily. And when they don't make enough of majja dhatu, then people can suffer with a lot of vata disorders. It can be very serious kind of vata disorders as well, and our tissues become and bones become very weak. That can be seen in conditions like osteoporosis. Be correlated with our reproductive tissues. So the main function is to reproduce, to help in reproduction. And the person who have excellence of Shukra Dhatu, they have...
Okay, excuse me. We lost you for a minute there, and I just wanted to point out that you've now moved on to Shukra Dhatu, the seventh issue. So now just because we missed that little bit, Naheed, if you would continue what you were talking about Shukra.
Yeah, we didn't hear any of the start of Shukra, Dr. Naheed. Did we hear the end of the Meja?
We just heard the end of it, I think. So
Yeah.
if Dr. Naheed starts again with Shukra.
Start with Shukra, Dr. Naheed. That would be perfect.
Yeah. So should I start from Shukra?
Yeah.
Please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes? We
No.
can. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the seventh one is Shukra, which can be correlated with our reproductive tissues, and those who have excellence of their Shukra Dhatu, they can be seen having very firm and white and well-grown teeth and nails. And when we don't form enough of our reproductive tissues, our Shukra Dhatu, then there can be a lot of problem with our reproduction. It can be premature ejaculation as well. It can be impotency as well, and all of the reproductive issues. And when we make all these tissues properly in our body, then we form the ojas, which is our stabilizing force, which is our immunity, which can prevent us from a lot of disease and keeps us healthy. So, describing everything about the doshas in detail, what I think the importance of this is because it all because of digestion. So we need to really focus on our digestion, and that's why Ayurveda considers and gives, talks about a lot of about digestion. So how we can keep our digestion nice and good going, that Dr. Rajvinder is going to elaborate you. So now I'm going to hand over to Noel.
Thanks, Dr. Naheed. So that's fascinating stuff about the 7 different tissues and, how from one stage to another, right up to our reproductive tissue. And I'm presuming, again, if there's problems in a particular area that, an Ayurvedic doctor will be looking back to which way these tissues are being formed. Are they being formed correctly? Is there a problem in this area that's causing something to happen, So again, a very in-depth look at things, So, okay, Dr. Naheed, that's wonderful. Thanks for explaining all of that to us. So, Dr. Rajvinder, it's obviously very, very important that we keep very strong digestion and have a very good digestive system. So you're going to talk about the really important things around digestion and maybe the type of foods that we should eat and how we have to have a lot of respect for our digestive system if we want to be healthy. So I'll hand over to you, Dr. Rajvinder.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Dr. Don and Dr. Naheed, for explaining the relation of Jatra Agni and how the different layer of tissues are formed and how to keep ourselves healthy through our digestive system. As Ayurveda say, you are what you eat, and also Ayurveda say you are what you digest. So there's a big emphasis of digestion and health in Ayurveda. So there are 3 types of Agnis or digestion that I'm going to talk about. As you all familiar now at this stage by Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, how the quality of these Vata, Pitta, Kapha affect the digestive fire. And we're going to look into that correlation here. So the first Agni that I'm going to talk about is balance Agni, which is called Sama Agni in Ayurveda. So some of us are very blessed to have a very balanced Agni. So with the balanced Agni, the person feel hungry and person digest the food and feel light and energetic after eating the food, and the person has a lot of ojas, which is kind of good lustrous skin, a lot of health, and stomach feel happy, and elimination is regular. So good hunger and good kind of digestion of food and good elimination. So that's kind of a balance Agni, balance metabolism. These kind of people digest mostly all kind of foods, what's in the season, and cook, and if the food is cooked properly, of course, without any much problem. So these people don't complain much about. So you can imagine these are probably healthy people. And then the other Agnis, I'm going to talk about how Vata, Pitta, Kapha effect is. So first Agni is Vishma Agni. So Vishma Agni is irregular digestion. So as the word irregular comes here, you can pick up what dosha I'm going to talk about. So I'm talking about involvement of vata here, because one of the quality of vata is irregularity. So vata people would have, if the vata is out of balance, would have very irregular metabolism, which means the person don't feel hungry on time, and they could have bloating, they could have flatulence, they could have a lot of noises when digesting the food, and sometimes they have constipation, sometimes they have diarrhea. So we can correlate this Vishma Agni with IBS kind of symptoms. So that's kind of imbalanced vata. So what vata is? Dry, light, and cold. So you can kind of correlate eating dry, light, and cold salads gonna cause Vishma Agni. So to balance the Vishma Agni, you need to eat warm, cooked food and mild spices in the food and regular eating. And that's how the Vishma Agni can easily be changed into the Sama Agni. And then the second Agni is Tikshna Agni, and Tikshna Agni is hypermetabolism, which is related to Pitta dosha, because Pitta people have very strong digestive fire. So people with hypermetabolism, when they have too hot and too sharp qualities dominant in their physiology, so these people often complain that I'm still hungry after eating my dinner. So most of the time, the food passes too quickly from the system. They eat and they go to the toilet and empty too soon, and they're hungry. And some of my patients, even in the ladies, they complain, I just ate my dinners 2 hours ago and I'm still craving for something. So then I tell them, yeah, the pitta is a little bit too much in your system. So that's where the Agni go, a bit of hypermetabolism. So if this is not looked after, and that could be because of eating too sharp food, too much of chilies, too much of kind of bitter food, too much of fermented food in your system. So could be too many pickles or too many kind of bread or too much of dairy product, which is cheese. So that causes kind of hypermetabolism. So for these people, you need to kind of have more cooling quality of the food, which is more coriander, fresh mint, cooling pitta churna, and cooling pitta spices to the drinks like pitta tea, and having more amla, because amla is one of the ingredients in triphala. Amla is cooling, so either amla in any form, powder form, fresh form, amla juice. Another tip for Tikshna Agni is having a bit of aloe vera juice diluted with water during the day, also calm down the heat in the body. So that's for the Tikshna Agni. And the third one is Manda Agni. So Manda Agni is sluggish metabolism, and you can easily say, oh, that's kapha. So too much involvement of the kapha element, because kapha is heavy, so that overpower the digestive system. So kapha, Manda Agni people say they don't feel hungry all day, and I hear that a lot from kapha people saying, I don't feel hungry for my breakfast. And sometimes I have to kind of force myself to feed. And then if I don't eat later on the day, they might be craving for heavy food like sugar, chocolate, and things like that. And this also happens in the people when they don't listen to the calls for hunger. So they are kind of, hunger is a natural urge. So when you're hungry, you're busy, you just fill yourself with a coffee or a tea and a chocolate, then you're easy settling the Manda Agni into your system. So regular eating habits are very important to deal with the Manda Agni, and stimulating spices, cinnamon, ginger. So easy tip that we normally give to people is ginger, lemon, and honey before you eat is stimulate your digestive fire a lot. And kapha churna, kapha tea into your food. And triphala and trikatu. These are two wonderful herbs to deal with the Manda Agni as well. So there are a lot of other herbs and a lot of things that you can take to help with all of these three imbalances into your digestive fire. So, and then physical activities, regular walk, regular exercise, yoga, asana, other things you can do as well with it.
Okay, Rajvinder, that's great. So we have balanced digestion, and then we basically have it broken down into Vata, Pitta, Kapha, which at this stage people are going to be able to recognize. So I think it's very important that everybody should try figure out, where their digestive fits in all of that, and because then you can take the appropriate action to bring it back around and bring it well. So I think for everybody, Rajvinder, eating your main meal in the middle of the day would definitely be recommended.
Absolutely, because we have done in the lectures before the importance of your daily routine. So when the sun is high in the sky, your digestive systems work stronger. So if we miss that and we eat a heavy dinner, we are next day, of course, we won't be hungry, and then the pattern keeps going on, and we don't just in our system, and maybe we could have disturbance in one of the 7 tissues that Dr. Nahid was explaining. The easily imbalance could settle in according to what we are doing, how we are eating, when we are eating, where we are eating. All that is very important to have a balanced digestive fire.
So main meal in the middle of the day, and really just a very light meal in the evening time. I imagine have that meal before 7 o'clock. Would that be?
Yes, because we have spoken about 6 to 10, which is the kapha time of the day. And that time, as the sun is going down, and that's the time when body starts producing more melatonin. So our physiology kind of slow down. So our digestive system slow down as well. So we cannot digest a big or heavy meal at that time. So it's good. Again, you self-refer. Depends if you're hungry or not. Some pitta people, they cannot do liquid day, they cannot do fasting, they cannot do light meal. So they might eat substantial dinner, but again, not overfeeding themselves. As Ayurveda say, your portion is very important. So 3/4 of your stomach should be full, and 1/4 of your stomach should be empty. So you kind of have to kind of self-refer yourself to on that, how much food you want in the evening time, because some people, different people have different kind of desires or needs. Vata people are okay. Kapha people are okay when without a dinner or a very light, kind of a golden milk. Pitta might need a bit of a substantial lentil stew or curry with rice, something like that. Yes.
Okay, and that's interesting. So you fill the stomach to 3/4, and then you leave 1/4 of the stomach full. So,
exactly.
So you shouldn't be really eating like a Christmas dinner where you can barely stand up afterwards, because then you're not leaving room for the system to digest everything.
Exactly. That's what Ayurveda tells you. You need to connect with yourself. So we have educated you, Ayurveda educates you about what's going on in your physiology. So now you can see at what level is my digestive fire. Am I in a balanced state? Do I feel hungry on time? Do I feel light after eating? I don't feel heavy, sleepy, groggy after that? Do I not have too many noises or bloating or flatulence after eating? So from there, if any of that is happening, either you can take help of a Ayurveda practitioner to help you to bring the balance back, or you follow the guideline of Vata, Pitta, Kapha and correct your digestive fire and enjoy kind of a good digestive system, regular elimination. And if your food is digesting well, your sleep is better and your energy levels are better. So it's, again, the ball is in your court, really. So.
Okay, so everything is really tied into digestion here, because as we say, if we're digesting the food properly, we're making the right tissues, the tissues are unfolding into the other tissues. So the whole health of the system comes back to the digestive process. And even our immunity, after what Dr. Brennan said, like most of our immunity is in our gut. So obviously having a very healthy gut and not putting wrong things in there is very, very important for our immunity. I also believe it's important for our emotional and mental health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are very emotional, depressed, anxious, it has a huge impact on your digestive system, because as they say, there's a big connection between your gut and mind. So if you're doing emotional eating, you probably end up with a very sluggish metabolism and you end up putting on weight, and that's kind of kapha indication. If you're angry and irritated and you're eating food, you are setting a lot of inflammation in your system. If you're stressed and worried and you're eating, you are setting a lot of kind of degeneration in your system. So of course your mental health is very important as well. So.
But it's probably a two-way street, is it? Like your mental state can affect your digestion, but your digestion probably also affects your mental state as well.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. So that's why when the physician assess a person, they're not only asking questions about the symptoms, they also check the person's environment, what's going on in their environment, what's their social life, what's their spiritual life, and what's their kind of emotions and all of that. Is there any past trauma? Is there any childhood history? So we kind of evaluate all the different aspects of a person's life, and we may not give them any herb. We just say, okay, you just learn the transcendental meditation, or you just do the yoga, or you just do some pranayama. So yeah, there will be a program tailored according to what's going on in the person's mind, in their body. So it's not only dealing with the symptoms, you have to deal all the different aspects of a person's life.
Okay, Dr. Taylor. So thank you very much for that. So there we have it, the very, very important area of digestion. So maybe Dr. Brennan might like to give a little summation of everything that we've covered today.
I think it's fascinating, Noel, to come to this part of the course and to see it all come together, and to see the wealth of wisdom that Ayurveda has to offer, just with those reflections of Dr. Rajvinder, how all the various aspects of our life, our environment, our emotion, our thinking, how in terms of the balance and imbalance of our nature with Vata, Pitta and Kapha, we now actually come to see how that impacts in the transformation of the nourishment we ingest into the tissues and the structure that we are. And at so many levels, at the initial level of the primary stages of digestion in the gut, but how the gut in turn, it's controlling and influencing profoundly the liver functions and the tissue metabolisms. And so Ayurveda is tracing from cause in life right through the processes in the physiology to the outcome of either perfect health or some disease, whereabouts it's located. And then Ayurveda can address it in the tissues, it can address it in the digestive system, it can address it in the life in terms of the balance of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So all of these give so many different strategies that can, be used in combination to synergize, to give an overall influence of integration back to the physiology of balance and coherence. And it's amazing that we come from consciousness in a sense, because that's our fundamental, which becomes lively as mind, structuring a body. And then we have this immense capacity to take the material form and transform it within us to finer and finer essences in our tissues, and to ultimately, what Dr. Nahid talked about, ojas. And that ojas is what actually so integrates us that we completely awaken the whole field of consciousness. It's the field of perfect health and enlightenment, which is the aim of Ayurveda. Such a rich combination of insights that come together in order for us either to treat the disease or to prevent this disease, or to take us forward in terms of our well-being, our joy in life, our health. It's a lovely, I think, perspective to bring the lectures of the course together and synergize into this final, beautiful, ojasic project.
Okay, Dan, I think that's a great summation of the whole thing. So thanks very much for that. So the ultimate thing is, the ultimate goal of health is the production of ojas and happiness, and having that state of exalted consciousness, really perfect health, and everything being just a part of that whole thing, So I'm sure that lots of questions have come up about that. We covered an awful lot of ground in today's talks. So again, we're going to start our Q&A session. And again, we'll give preference to people who have questions about the topic of the day. We will endeavour to answer all questions, but we will give preference to people who talk about the topic of the day. So I'll thank the doctors, and then the doctors will hang on, and we'll go over and we'll begin our Q&A session. Okay, great. So very interesting things in there. I just want to go back to that thing about serotonin that Dr. Brennan talked about, and the fact that it's actually produced in the gut and through gut bacteria. We live in this world where, the media have created this thing where bacteria are your enemy and they need to be killed and swapped out, and you need to be spraying every square inch of your house with all sorts of chemical products because the nasty bacteria are going to come out and kill you. When in actual fact, we can't survive without these bacteria. If we didn't, at one time, medical science thought that bacteria couldn't exist in the gut. And now we know that it's a host for bacteria, and that these bacteria are actually producing hormones and, different elements that are essential for human health, So, and what did you say, Don? 80% of our serotonin is produced in the gut?
There's about 36 different chemicals that the gut bacteria create, which are neuropeptides, which are transmitters in the brain. So there's a powerful influence there. Over 90% of the serotonin, the happy hormone, created in the gut, and dopamine, the sleep hormone, also a big proportion of that prepared in the gut.
So we should be looking at things like, I mean, I'm not saying it would be the only cause. Obviously, there are many causes to different diseases, but certainly things like depression, anxiety, worry, all those things, you know, could come back to, in some way, to an unhealthy gut flora.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a fascinating book. I must see, can I dig it out? I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think it's just called Gut Health, you know. It's written by a lady doctor where she just talks about all this new knowledge that's coming up about the gut. So, and that's why Ayurveda forever has always put this huge importance on maintaining a very healthy digestive system and eating the right things. And that's why we should be avoiding processed foods. We should be avoiding taking into our system anything that was never really designed to be taken in, like all these artificial chemicals that are added into foods and glycophosphate. I mean, I know it's practically impossible to avoid them at this stage, you know, but we can limit them as much as we can, or as much as we possibly can, by eating organic foods and eating good foods in season. And I think nature is a great thing because, you know, it always brings along to you what you need at the time, you know, and that's why we have the seasons, and that's why we have different foods coming up at different times of the season. And whatever is in season in your country at that particular time is more than likely, ideally, what you need at that particular time, you know. So the whole thing is all tied in together. So it's an amazing thing, really, you know. So
So Joe and Deborah ask what actually causes IBS or gluten intolerance or lactose. And well, they're all a breakdown of the whole digestive system, and they're, you know, the causes of that may very well relate to the things we're discussing in this lecture, and the solution, in part at least, would involve what we're recommending. There was another question there. By the way, Rajvinder's phone got disconnected, so she lost all our questions.
Yeah,
she lost all our questions. But is she in there in person now?
I'm here now. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
We can see you. No.
Hallelujah.
No, sorry, I was out and then I got stuck and then I was on the phone.
I hope you were within your 5-mile radius.
Yeah.
So
there were some private messages, so I just lost them. So sorry, apologize. I can't reply.
No problems. Enough questions coming through to keep you going now till midnight.
Okay.
But to go back on one of the old ones, there was a question came in from a lady who's in a later phase of life and has alteration in bowel habit. That is always something to get checked out. So you go to your GP and check it out. And strangely enough, for the problem you're having, it can be an extension of a constipation where there's a blockage to some extent with too much feces and a leakage around that. And that can give rise to all these loose, frequent motions. So that lady could really do a medical GP's check out first to make sure there's not such a problem that would need a bit more clearing. And after that, I suppose, yes, these digestive advices, this strengthening of digestion, try the trifle can be used for both loose motions as well as constipation. But other than that, we'd have to actually talk to you in person.
Yep. Denise is asking, is rheumatoid arthritis related to digestion? Yes, Denise, this is AMA. I think we have touched a little bit on the concept of AMA, which is undigested remnants of food in the system, and it starts piling, and then your body can handle it spill to the weakest part of the body. In case of rheumatoid, it's the small joint. So that's the AMA. So you need to take Deepana, which is igniting your digestive part, Pachana, which is digesting the AMA, that kind of herbs. So simple herb is like ginger, lemon, or we call it trikatu. So that will be just very basic to start with. But yes, it is related to digestion.
And it is a condition that Ayurveda can be incredibly helpful for, isn't it, Raj? And if coupled with it, they should have consultation.
Absolutely. If you come early, your symptoms settle very quickly. And if it's a little bit more chronic, you still work on it with more patience, with more work on your diet, with the herbs, yeah, you can manage it really well. Yeah.
Question about a paleo-ketogenic diet. Ayurveda would have been, in a sense, ketogenic because there would have been that good overnight fast always recommended, where it throws the body back on using fats and ketones for energy. And so that's a very healthy thing. We finish eating by 7 in the evening, and if you're kapha, you don't really eat until the next lunchtime, or at least you don't eat for 12 hours. So that ketogenic aspect is very much Ayurveda. And Ayurveda also is saying that we shouldn't eat too much, which of course we all do in the West, that we should be moderate in the amount, which would also be helpful in that direction. But the paleo concept is a weird new idea, which, okay, well, I suppose I think it was there in the 80s as well. You have to go all meats and proteins, and they talk about, the fact that we were always meat eaters, we were hunter-gatherers. And we don't know well, the evidence is very mixed, and it would seem people were eating a lot of plants 10,000 years ago. The argument works both ways. So the medical evidence is accumulating that too much meat is not good for health, that meat should be moderated, and in fact, the healthiest diet of all is plant-based diet. So there was also the question about fermented foods.
Can I just say something on the paleo? Sorry, to add into that. There's actually a very good book on the paleo, like with the Ayurveda concept. This is called The Paleo-Vedic Diet by Dr. Akhil. And he has shared his story as a medical doctor, how his vata got out of balance. And he was not a meat eater coming from a Brahmin family. And when he went to the Ayurveda, they recommended him bone broth. It was a lot of kind of resistance in his psychology not to try it. He was losing weight and autoimmune and all of that. And eventually he tried it and he put on weight and he felt better. And he wrote this book, Paleo-Vedic Diet. Anything, and people down there were wondering about the paleo. So this is paleo with Ayurveda. So which is will be a bit of keto as well because of the fat and all.
And I think the thing there is Ayurveda will use meat medically and will describe innumerable different meats for different conditions. But in the main, Ayurveda is plant-based diet. And his particular situation may have required meat. And certainly bone marrow is something that would be very often worth prescribing for a lot of people. But the plant-based diet.
Don't go mad on the meat.
Yeah, I think moderation in meat. I mean, I did have an Indian Vaidya when I was in India told me to eat meat to help balance the vata aspect of me. But I mean, he recommended goat's meat. He said, if you're going to eat meat, eat goat's meat. And he said goats are very brave animals. They eat a wide range of different things, and that those qualities are in the meat as well. I'd have to say as well, I think meat maybe 10,000 years ago, where animals were, hunted in the wild, very, very different to meat that's, reared in a feeding station, so the quality, it's the same with milk, the quality of the milk then and the quality of the milk now, and the quality of the meat then and the quality of the meat now, probably very, very different things. But I think you're right, Dr. Brennan, a small amount of meat, if you're going to eat meat, you don't, and we know processed meats are carcinogenic. I mean, the World Health Organization has come out and said that. So avoid everything processed. So if you're going to eat meat, eat good meat. And avoid processed foods, especially processed meats, if you can. Sorry, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's wise, just to move towards the vegetarian gradually, gently and knowingly. You find out good recipes to replace meat meals. So the other thing was the fermented foods, but they were in every tradition, and they were there like lassi in the Ayurvedic tradition. But the insight that Ayurveda also brought was Vata Pitta Kapha, and it might be for some Pitta people who are already overheated that the fermented hot nature of the food might not suit them. But even better than these probiotics and is the prebiotics, the fiber in plants is what actually feeds your microbiome. And so taking plenty of plants is the best way to have a good fibrous good microbiome. And that brought me back to one question. There was somebody who stopped a proton pump inhibitor, which Rajvinder nicely answered, as she did in many of the questions. Thanks, Rajvinder. And that was because he stopped the proton pump inhibitor and then he got the leaky gut. But usually the proton pump inhibitors, they actually are the underlying cause of the leaky gut. So what you need is a gentle transition to strengthen up your digestion, to heal your gut, and then you can come off your proton pump inhibitor. And that might require a little bit of expert help.
Yeah, Chitra is saying how to get relief pain in the back of heart by spine. Feels like wind. Chitra, you said you're blowing out the air by holding it. That's helping you. You can try the posture, Pavan Mukta Asana, which is knee to your chest. So you lie on your back, fold your knees and hug with your arms and bring the knee to your chest. That is very good asana to relieve the wind. And the child pose, baby pose is comfortable. Somebody said very nicely before, sitting in the Vajrasana after meal help with the digestion. Yes, very good. You do that. Or you take some of the digestive spices like trikatu with honey before you're eating, or mix ginger lemon with honey. See if that help you. Or there are more herbs like hinguvashtak or avipattikar. You can try those. But try these asanas and I think that will help. And try to eat slowly. You might be eating too fast.
Okay, I just want to read out one before I lose it here. It's not really a question, it's more a statement. It's from Sinead O'Malley, and she says, I absolutely have loved listening to you all over the last 3 weeks. I have bought 3 Ayurvedic books and I've spoken to anyone who will listen to me about this. So that's what we want. We need to spread this knowledge out far and wide. You've all seen that if you've done this course and you've been listening, you see that Ayurveda is a very, very comprehensive system of medicine, a very comprehensive, that has a completely different approach than allopathic Western medicine. So, I mean, but, you know, I'm not going to say equally as valid, more valid as far as I'm concerned, a much better way of dealing with health issues by getting to the root cause of these things and making people wake up to the fact that they're responsible for their health, not any doctor, not any tablet, not anything like that. You yourself are responsible for your health, nobody else. And you have to take charge of your health and make the changes that, you know, are necessary to do that. So Sinead, keep telling everybody we have a new course starting on the 6th of April. And so that's a Tuesday. So it's going to be Tuesday, Thursday for 3 weeks. And I have it up on our Facebook page. So if people would like to go to our Facebook page, I send you the link in the emails and make a comment about the course. If you found the course was good, make a comment on it. I'm advertising, doing a lot of advertising on Facebook at the moment to try get another 1,000 people to come along and learn this knowledge, you know. But the real way, the best way I find is word of mouth. So you tell your friends, you tell your family, you tell your work colleagues. It's a free course. If you found it good, obviously we'd be honest about things. Just let people know about it. So thanks for that, Sinead. Keep telling who'll ever listen. And even if they seem like they haven't listened, maybe they have and they'll come to it on some course maybe later on in the year or whatever, you know. Okay, sorry, I just saw that comment and I wanted to comment on it, you know.
Isabel asks, is blood pressure to do with the recta or blood tissues? Isabel, indirectly, but I would immediately start thinking of Rasa. Rasa would have a weak Rasa, insufficient nutrient fluid coming out of the digestive system, and the liver function fires. So it's a matter of taking care of digestion and nourishing the Rasa, and that in turn will nourish the blood tissues then. And Louise Key came back from last time, she didn't get her question answered. The recommended amount of cooking with ghee and with ginger. So with ghee, vata and pitta, you use, you know, a 2-3 teaspoonful, a dessert spoonful, or even 2 could be fine in the cooking. But kapha, very little. You know, we're talking about a teaspoonful with kapha. And the ginger depends. Ginger powder can be heating and therefore can heat pitta. Ginger root should be fairly okay for most, and it's a brilliant digestive.
So someone asks, is flatulence a pitta thing? It's more a vata thing, wind movement, you know. So it's more a function of vata. So you need to look after your vata digestion there. Sorry, Dr. Rajvinder.
Yeah, it's a happy Holi today. Somebody sent a message. Happy Holi.
Is it Holi today?
No. Vatsala said no. It is Monday is the color, and it's not exactly. It is this week. The bonfire on Sunday, coloring on Monday. And the foods we eat is dates, popcorns made from millet, sorghum, fresh coconut. Great, Vatsala. Thank you for sharing. yeah, it's a very beautiful time of the year. People throw color on each other.
Myself and Dr. Brennan were in India one time for Holi in Delhi, and we got into a color fight with the people in the apartment complex next door, and there was a few other people. I'm not sure if it was you, Dr. Brennan. There was a few good crowd. Were you with me that time when we got absolutely? They came out and they dragged us into the apartment complex and they drowned us in all these different colors and water and everything like that. A big water fight. Were you there, or was it? It was Derek Crampton, actually. Sorry, Derek Crampton. Yeah. Oh, geez, what a lot of fun that was. You know, they really celebrate Holi in India like it's a huge thing, and they throw colors at one another and have water fights and everything. It's a great festival. It's really
it's
fun, you know.
great start of the spring, reminder of the spring colors.
Yeah.
Great. Purnima is saying a remedy for osteoporosis. Purnima wrote of note of calcium-rich food in your diet, like a bit of tahini, flax seeds, or pak choi, and things, vegetable calcium-rich. And we have a formula called CalcioCare, which helps with the absorption of the calcium. It's kind of red coral, or a good calcium supplement as well, and weight-bearing exercises, regular yoga, Pilates, brisk walk, and some kind of a cardio workout for your bones. So that could help.
And it is a Vata problem as well. So
yeah,
we're talking about Vata.
Yeah, and when we're talking about this proton pump inhibitor, if you're on those and tested for a long time, you're inviting osteoporosis, because this proton pump inhibitor weakens your bones so much. So try to avoid them as much as possible.
Proton pump inhibitors were licensed for short-term use, and they're abused because people are on them for years. And
for years, yeah. Doctor just forget them to take them off, and people is taking it. No, you shouldn't take them long term at all. Yeah.
Mary suffers from anxiety and depression in the last few years. Mary, I think, well, the TM will be very good. And also, make sure you're on a very good Ayurvedic regime, because it does leave you settled and with more energy. And
Jay says, I was looking on your website about COVID prevention. Did I miss anything other than Amla Kalash? Absolutely, you did, Jay. And where you need to go to is our YouTube channel. And I've sent that out in the emails I send. The link, I specifically sent the link to the COVID talk. There was lots and lots of advices there from the Ayush, the Department of Ayush. So just look at the email I sent you with the link for this evening, or the one I sent yesterday. But I have a link to the YouTube channel with the webinar on COVID. And it's not really on the website, it's on our YouTube channel, so go and look at that video. Can I be cured? Yeah, sorry, Don.
Just sourdough bread is a nice idea. The sourdough will help. It's a fermentation process that would help digestion. So
Brennan likes it.
Pardon?
Brennan likes his sourdough.
Yes, toast it.
Yes.
Toasting bread helps digestion.
Yeah, exactly. If it's kind of I think the buckwheat sourdough is available in most of the farmer markets. That's very good, or the spelt one. So that is a good idea if you're occasionally, but not every day. Could be a bit heavy as well. But it's better than the normal bread. Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody's asking, is it possible to have good, healthy, deeper tissues without enough rasa? Well, yes, in the sense that we can be born with strengths, but definitely it would wear down if we weren't actually nourishing ongoing over the days, months, and years.
Mia said she bought Bata, Pita, Kapha, all the 3 teas. Can she drink them in one day? And yes, Mia, you can. Just 1 cup of each if you want. But your kapha, you said, so kapha will be more relevant for you, even if you have autoimmune conditions. So kapha is brilliant to digest the ama from the system. So I would be more sticking with the kapha for long term.
Sophie has chronic constipation and uses Triphala, but she never has a need to go. Sophie, if you have good bulk in your bowel, in other words, plenty of fiber, it expands the colon. And then it's that expansion that can give you a feeling of an urge. So maybe you're just not getting enough good fiber in your diet. You should maybe try that, or you could add in maybe psyllium husks going to bed at night in water, a teaspoonful or 2 psyllium husks, and see if that starts to help the urge.
Here's a question for you, Don. I'm actually interested. I think I know the answer. It says, Dr. Brennan, did you face conflict in your work between medical model and Ayurveda? I can tell you he faced a financial loss for about 30 years, that's for sure, you know. But anyway, because I've been working with Don a long time, so I'm telling you that there's not many doctors that be working for what Dr. Brennan has been working for a long time. But anyway, did you face other conflicts other than financial conflicts, Dr. Brennan?
I would say that the medical profession is only beginning to wake up now with their evidence-based lifestyle medicine. They're only beginning to wake up. So there was never a possibility that medical people could take to it, because they're so highly trained in that model, which is a different paradigm to Ayurveda. So many, if they're hospital-based, they just haven't got any, mostly I would say they haven't got any clue as to the paradigm that we work from. But if you're in general practice, you have more of the wholeness of a person's life that you're aware of. And so GPs tend to be quite interested and like to hear about it, but they're too busy and they've too much on their plate to start to retrain in a whole new system. The big conflict was time, because with Ayurveda, you sit and you listen and you interpret and you advise and you educate. And you can't just write a prescription and say out the door in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you know. So that was the conflict. It was time. And so it was a great relief to, you know, go out on your own and be able to give the time, and much more fulfilling to deal with the whole person, the whole of their life. It's great fun, Ayurveda, much more fulfilling, in my experience.
It is, and all of your patients are like, really, you know them really well, and they do say that, like, oh, I know you really well from this course. It's quite fulfilling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a completely different paradigm, you know, and you know, it's not that it's new. I mean, it's not that it's new either. It's in many different traditions, you know, that you know that
the Chinese, like that you paid the doctor when you were well. And it's a strange one, that, because with Ayurveda, people can be coming with their minor complaints. But if someone actually then gets sick, you don't want to charge them, because, you know, they're sick. You don't want to be taking money off them. So it's a funny one. It's a funny psychology working in Ayurveda, that you are very happy to take the money when they're well. But if they're your patient and subsequently get sick, you get concerned for them and would wish to support them. And, you know, it's the difference is that you go to the doctor treats your disease. That's his expertise. He's studied disease. He's trained all the treatments for disease. He has not studied health, and he has not got the capacity from that perspective to give you everything you need in order to empower you to heal yourself. And that's the Ayurveda paradigm. You're the boss. You're in control. It's up to you whether you get out of bed in the morning or sleep until 11 and suffer colds. It's up to you whether you have your meal in the middle of the day, you know. But it's to empower you, to show you the benefit of what you can do. And, you know, for the vast majority of people, they can improve the quality of their life just with simple things like we're talking about. And, you know, improving their quality of life continues on into healing some chronic complaints that have been there for years. And it's all prevention, it's healing, it's simple, it's up to you. That's the beautiful paradigm of Ayurveda.
Yeah,
nice
and it's traditional usage. And to be honest, if someone said to me, you know, the thing I get asked about it is the evidence base, you know. But I've looked into the evidence base in allopathic medicine, and as far as I'm concerned, it's just a matter of cherry picking statistics to suit the argument that you want, you know. Cholesterol and all of that being a really typical example of all of that. You're just looking for what you want, and they say there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. And if you actually look into the way that they manipulate statistics to present their agenda as being the correct one, and then call it evidence-based, and the only thing about the evidence-based also is that most of the evidence, or a lot of the evidence, never sees the light of day. because the pharmaceutical companies own that evidence. They're not obliged to publish it. So if they do a study on a drug and there's very negative effects from that drug, they don't have to release that study. They're not obliged to release that study to the general public or to bodies that oversee these things. They only release the studies that suit the agenda that they've set out for that drug to do. So the whole thing, I don't want to speak too strongly about it, but there seems to me to be an awful lot of corruption in it. So for me, I'd go for traditional usage over thousands of years, as opposed to something that's so-called evidence-based, or I'd be very, very carefully looking at the evidence to support what they're actually saying, you know. And the interesting thing is that pharmaceutical drugs they probably kill more people than illegal narcotics kill every year. Herbal medicine doesn't tend to kill people. I don't think there are cases of that, but pharmaceutical drugs certainly do, you know.
I'll have to rein Noel in a little bit there now, won't I?
You will.
Listen, everybody, hear me now. Modern medicine is absolutely brilliant. It has made immense progress. It is absolutely catapulting forward in advances, in particular in relation to diagnosis. And you always want to go to your doctors. You always want to know what you're dealing with, because even from our point of view, the more you understand that, the better you can use Ayurveda. There are many, many situations where you have to use medicines. If you're a diabetic, you'll be dead without the insulin. So, you know, medicine has been quite useful. I think Noel's point is that there's a pharmaceutical influence where they're actually involved in the universities and, have immense power and influence, even in the training of doctors. They actually fund the postgraduate training for most of the doctors. And so, that influence, which then places the emphasis totally on using medicines, fortunately, is starting to be better balanced by the evidence that's come out about lifestyle medicine now, about all the things we're talking about. And so that's starting to become integrated. And I can tell you GPs will eventually grab that, because they wish they had more to offer than just a prescription. And many GPs do offer more than their prescription, you know.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. There's a great GP in Drogheda here that's very broad-minded about different things. Absolutely, for sure. In acute conditions, if you crash your car and you put your head in the windscreen, you don't need aloe vera juice and lifestyle advice. You need whatever modern medicine can bring to bear to keep you alive. I've no questions about that. There are fantastic things there. But I think with chronic conditions, there's a lot better solutions to the solutions that people are being given, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough said about that.
There's a few questions come in here. Is opinion on probiotic tablets taken daily? The probiotic tablets can be useful, especially if you put on some of these medicines that affect the microbiome, like the proton pump inhibitors and the antibiotics. And in those situations, the probiotics taken for a while. But the better strategy is the long-term strategy of the proper fiber in the diet, and the use regularly of fermented foods like your lassi or your sauerkraut or these other traditional ferments.
Prebiotic-rich fibers, chicory, pak choi, all of those lovely vegetable, onion, garlic, all are lovely prebiotics. So that's better than taking long-term probiotic. You don't want your system to be lazy. And same about the digestive enzyme. Somebody asked the question, what do you think? The same thing. If you can bring your own digestive enzyme back on track, great. You might need them for temporarily, short-term, but don't stay with them for long-term.
And Bhavani asks, what food contains serotonin? No food contains serotonin. You have to make it yourself. I'm sorry. But it's interesting that Ayurveda would have recommended a hot milk drink before bed, because
dark chocolate is serotonin.
The hot milk contains an ingredient which is immediately transformed into serotonin in your body. So it's a precursor. And so that's serotonin helps you sleep. And that's why the hot milk before.
Serotonin, happy hormone. So the food that make you happy.
And again, all the foods that help your microbiome, which make it for you as well.
Yeah. Somebody asked, what tahini and date good for pitta? Tahini and dates will be warming in nature. So in moderation, really very small amount of tahini and dates in moderation because of the hot nature, like a hot warm effect on the body.
Isabel's asking about belching again and again. So is it samana? Yeah, but it could also be that Apana is not working well, and that's pushing pressure on Samana, which is pushing up, to cause the belching. So, but definitely it's Vata.
Sometimes belching is H. pylori if it's a very recurrent, it's troubling you too much. If it's just temporarily, short term, it's just something to do with your food. If it's lingering on, then it could be SIBO or H. pylori. So you might need to look into that. Because belching came up a few times.
Somebody's had a slightly salty taste in their mouth recently. That's a digestive problem, kapha.
Kapha.
Don't
So triphala mouthwash to open up your salivary glands. Just do some triphala mouthwash.
And maybe a trichotube might help his digestion or digestion. That would help.
Yeah.
Hey, we're getting close to the end here.
Well, let's get this 18-year-old daughter with polycystic ovarian syndrome. Definitely, you should look at the videos about the lady's health. You should actually think about Ayurveda. At 18-year-old, that's possibly quite reversible from an Ayurveda point of view.
Yeah, it's a kapha vata condition. So diet, she said the diet would help. Definitely diet would help to resolve it. It will for long term, because PCOD could trouble her a lot later in her life. So yeah, you start early.
Chitra Joshi has pain in her back, wondering about digestion. Just try sipping hot water, and see if the belching that comes relieves the pain, and if so, it's wind gathered.
Jay asked about the COVID, that he watched our webinar and he just got the Amrit Kalash recommendation.
No, I answered that, Rajvinder. Yeah, no, he didn't watch the webinar. He just went to the website. He needs to watch the webinar. So you need to go to the...
Okay, so because there is a drink that we recommended, and
no, there's lots of things on the webinar from the department. Not just, they're not our recommendations, they're from the Indian government,
Yeah, the
Department of Ayush,
Somebody's saying what to do about bloating. I think they should review this blooming lessons, because it's all about it.
Yeah.
There we come to the end of the lesson and we haven't got through yet.
Anyway, I'll put the lesson up on YouTube tomorrow, so you can review over it. We covered a lot of ground in tonight's lesson, Okay, we're getting very close to there, and we are doing another lesson now. We've added another lesson onto this course, and it's the 6 stages of disease, and we're going to be running it in April. And we'll actually bring in people from the various different courses that we did. So what we'll do is we will well, yeah, I'll have to do a registration page for that, but I'll send you a link that you can come on to that. So in Ayurveda, we see 6 stages to a disease. It's not just that you're healthy one day and you're diseased the next day. It builds up, and there's a pathway for the disease to build up, and the earlier you can catch it, the better. Prevention is always better than cure. So we're going to do that webinar in April, and it'll be a free webinar. It'll be considered part of this course. And then Dr. Naheed, who's not with us this evening, is going to do a webinar on ear, nose and throat, and Dr. Rajvinder is going to do a webinar on mental health, and we'll replay Dr. Brennan's lifestyle webinar, because that is fantastic, and I think he's correct. It's the future. I'd like every doctor in the country to see that webinar, because like the evidence is there now that lifestyle is more powerful than drugs, so when we just have to get that knowledge out there.
And the webinar for detox people to come along on the Friday.
Oh yeah, well, the detox people, anyone on the detox course, there's a Zoom call on Friday night, but I'll be sending out links about that anyway, and we're going to do another webinar when we're finished this detox. We're going to do another webinar for the April detox. We still have spaces on that, but maybe we'll bring on some people from this detox to talk about their experiences of doing it, but that detox webinar is on our YouTube channel. So anybody interested in doing a spring detox, that it's a prerequisite to do that detox. The first thing you need to do is look at that webinar. It's about an hour or so long, and okay, so we're getting up to 9 o'clock. I'd like to thank all the doctors. Dr. Naheed, who came on nearly every night. She's missing this evening, but she stayed up late. She broke her Ayurvedic routine to come on and talk to all of us and give us her knowledge. To Dr. Rajvinder, who's been on every week. giving out the knowledge, and to Dr. Brennan as well. So a huge thank you to the doctors. I think you can't be anything but impressed by them, and you can't be anything but impressed by the range of knowledge that they have on all these different issues, you know. So a big thank you to the doctors, a big thank you to everybody that came along. We know a lot of people were repeating the course, and we love to see that, because the more you hear this, the more it goes in. And a big thank you to all of the new people that came along as well. You are on our mailing list, so I will be sending you out future emails. If you've had enough of Ayurveda, you don't want to learn anything more about it, that's absolutely fine. We're not forcing this knowledge on anybody. You just unsubscribe from the email list, but we'll keep you on that list till you unsubscribe, and we'll let you know about our yoga courses, and we'll let you know about all the different courses. Rajvinder, you're smiling there, have you?
No, thank you to Noel.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, I think, you know, I mean, the reality is we've been for years chasing our tails, and in the last year, Noel has finally got us to some far more easy dissemination of knowledge, rather than traveling and endlessly traveling and meeting small groups of people. Suddenly to be exposed to all of you is a great fulfillment, because it's really what we've always wanted. And so that's Noel's great expertise to put all this website and these courses together and keep us on the ball. And so we'd like to thank Noel for all he's doing. And there was a nice comment there as well, and it did remind me to say that I was blessed to meet Maharishi, as was Noel, and Maharishi actually intended that this knowledge should become global, and train doctors up around the world, send Vaidjas around the world. And his perspective of consciousness-based Ayurveda will be very interestingly expounded in a book that's coming by Tony Nader, the Ocean of Consciousness, the Ocean of Consciousness. So in another month or two, that book will be available and will give an insight into the reality of the profoundness of this whole concept of consciousness, and it will answer all the questions that people ask and get no real answer for. So that's a book worth looking forward to.
Yeah,
So
actually, he had a Facebook talk today, Don, and I tuned into it around 6 o'clock. It was very interesting about the book. He's doing talks every night for the next week on different aspects of it, and he's really answering the big questions about life and why we're here and what the purpose of it is, and you know how to get in tune with your true nature and all that. So it's very interesting, and I think when this book comes out, we'll make it available for sale on our own. I don't sell too many books on our website, but I sell Dr. Brennan's one, and we can sell Tony Nader's one as well, you know. So we let people know about it. And yeah, so what's his name again? Tony Nader, Nader.
Yeah.
Okay, so lots of people say,
can Ayurveda reverse diabetes? How, if it's insulin dependent, probably not, though. You may need less insulin if you're doing the right Ayurvedic things. If it's not insulin dependent, quite a good hope there. So I just got that one in before you.
Very good. So that's our last question answered on this course, you know. So great. And everybody, don't feel sad because you have nothing to do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll be back the week after next. So come back and join us again. The Q&As are nearly the most enlivening part of the whole thing. The knowledge on the videos is great. I need to do a little bit of editing of those videos. We had some problems there with Dr. Nahid earlier on, but just a little bit of editing will fix them up. And we'll do that course. There's great knowledge in it. You can listen to it again, and we'll have the Q&As again as well. And
we're adding one more lesson into it, the 6 stages.
Yeah, the 6 stages of disease, which we'll be putting out in, I think it's the 12th of April, but don't hold me on that. But don't worry, you'll get an email about it, you know. So listen, a big thank you to everybody for coming along. A big thank you to our doctors. We wish you health and happiness and joy in your life, regardless of what you do. But hopefully you'll take something away from this course and put it into use. And yeah, and maybe when we're out of lockdown, we'll see you in person at some stage. So namaste, everybody. Thank you very much for coming along. Thank you. And we'll see you again. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.